2 weekends in a row, gun violence has dominated the news after shootings in all 5 boroughs. There are a lot of concerns out there now. The increase in violence comes just as the city council voted to cut $1 billion from the NYPD at the height of the defund the police movement. Joining us this morning is the director of the Centers on Transnational Policing and Princeton, Professor Laurence Ralph. Professor, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Hey, Professor, in an interview on Sunday, former Police Commissioner Ray Kelly blamed the spike in gun violence with the NYPD's recent decision to eliminate the anti-crime units, which just happened. So my question, would we be seeing these types of results that quickly?
No, I think what he's referring to is just a vote. The money hasn't been implemented yet. And even if it had been implemented and the police had been defunded, which again is not the case, you have to realize that calls to defund the police do not exist in a vacuum. They're really calls to reprioritize the way that we spend taxpayer money so that the funds that would be defunded from the police would be redistributed into different programs that provide for the well-being of the community. And that is based on the premise that other resources better reduce crime than harsh policing tactics.
So let me ask you this. According to the NYPD, gun violence this year is up 150% over the same period last year. It's up 50% when you compare year to year altogether, right? In the past 24 hours alone, I mean, we've been reporting it this morning. Police tell us we've had 11 people killed, 48 total victims just within the 5 boroughs and just within 24 hours. The police commissioner, he talks about the Rikers population being back on the streets, blames coronavirus, blames some new laws that have passed. But what do you make of this?
Well, the first thing is that we have to take pause when considering anything in relation to last year or the year before that. We're in the midst of a global pandemic. The unemployment rate rose higher in the first 3 months of COVID than it did in 2 years during the Great Depression or during the Great Recession of the 1930s. And so we have to consider these kind of statistics with a grain of salt. And when we think about increased crime, that has a lot more to do, the research tells us, that with joblessness, with homelessness, with the fact that people may be suffering from mental illness, that they may be dealing with drug and alcohol addiction. And all these factors increase crime way more than the presence of police officers.
Let me ask you this. Are you surprised with the type of crime we're seeing, right? Because it's mostly gun violence on the streets. And one might think logically that, okay, if people are having trouble making ends meet or whatnot because of the pandemic or losing their job, that might be different types of crime, robberies or theft. But we're seeing mostly gun violence.
Well, gun violence is a result of the prevalence of guns in our society. And, you know, we have more guns in our society than we ever had before. And so it doesn't surprise me that people are enacting violence with the weapons available to them. And unfortunately, in our large metropolitan areas all across the U.S., guns are increasingly available to a large number of the public, unlike ever before.
So, Professor, there are 36,000 New York City police officers. The police unions have made some pretty veiled threats about work slowdowns. What would a work slowdown actually look like? Have you seen one of those take place in the past in terms of police departments?
Well, we have to realize that most police officers are not the kind of elite units that are solving murders and rape cases. And so when we talk about a police slowdown, it would probably result in the inconvenience for a lot of the public. And in a city like New York, that would have to do with congestion and people not being able to move around in ways that they're accustomed to. And so I think that any threats like that can actually result in increasing lack of the public trust. I mean, you have to remember that yes, the police feel under attack at this moment. They feel like their resources are being extracted from them. But we have people who are like public schools teachers who don't have resources either, who have been putting together lesson plans with their own budget. So I think that it could result in the resentment for a large part of the public who are also dealing with the same kinds of issues.
Professor Laurence Ralph, I appreciate your time this morning and your perspective. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.